we're ready with Landon Young. If you have questions for Landon, please raise your hand. All right. Our first question will be from Josh Moore.
Man, y'all have gotten pretty – it seems like every time you're out there, you can go for 300, 400, 500 rushing yards. But I don't know. I don't think you would have expected to have been 0-2 after a game where you rushed for 400 yards. Just how does that kind of sit with everybody?
You know, we don't look at it as a one-sided thing, as an offensive thing. You know, we got to look back at it as a team thing. And no matter on offense, defense, especially in this Ole Miss game, I'll take that for instance – there's in every single position group 4 or 5 plays that could have changed the whole momentum of the whole game. And, you know, we can't say that even though we put, 400 plus yards on the ground, that we shouldn't have had 450 on the ground. You know, putting that 50 extra yards and scoring another touchdown would have put us out of that completely. So, it doesn't sit good with any of us, especially as an offensive line. We're going back and we're looking at what we did wrong. We didn't have the best of game, even though we did rush for that many yards. And, we left stuff out there that we should have, took advantage of. And, a lost period sits sour in your stomach, at least for 24 hours. But after that 24 hours, you're on the next team and you got to look up, you got to go back to work, and you got to act like that didn't happen. Learn from your mistakes, fix them the next week.
John Hale.
Landon, having played a road game and a home game now under these weird conditions, just what is the difference in the environment? Can you tell with crowds being as small as they are? Does it still feel like a home field advantage and going on the road, those kind of things?
It definitely feels a little different. I'm not going to lie. You don't get that same initial energy, breaking out of the tunnel, coming out onto another teams, like the boos aren't as loud. But besides that, at the end of the day, we're out there to play football, and we're not there to, listen to the crowds. But it's the same thing on the field. We're going out there and we're facing another really good team, really good opponent, and we have to go out there and make the most of it ourselves. Definitely with the times being so crazy, I feel like something that we haven't been able to do as much is get united with other position groups as much. Like we used to have our break bread, which you all probably heard of, where we would go and sit down with somebody that we didn't really know, or someone that we may not have a great relationship with. And our task for that week was to sit down, eat a meal with them, and learn about them. Well, with COVID and everything, we can't, sit around the facility and eat. We can't sit around and just be right next to each other learning about somebody else. We don't have that extra time because we're only allotted so much time to be in here. So I think that's one thing, is just sort of being able to get that team unity back. That's different about this year more than anything.
Landon, what makes the 3-3-5 so difficult to block against? I know you all do a lot of zone blocking, but it's how does that pose a challenge when you're in the run game?
I think probably the most difficult part about it is just you don't see it much. Not a lot of teams run that, and I think we had one last year that ran it, and it's a completely different look than what you're used to. Of course, we're going against our defense all spring ball, all fall camp into a season, and we're going to a 5-man front or a 3-man front with a strong and weak, and you don't get those looks a lot. Not just that, but it allows for a lot of movement on their side and a lot of blitzing backers, a lot of this and that it's hard to prepare every single scenario for, which is really what you need to be able to look at. But again, those either guys playing head up 5s or tight 5s on the outside, or even maybe a 6 and having a lot of – that's a lot different, especially for the edge guys, our tackles, when we're used to having 4 eyes digging out a 3 technique, or having a wide 5 being able to block out.
Yeah, Landon, Nick kind of asked the question that I had. I'm curious, have you faced another defense that kind of gives you some similar looks to this, or is this totally unique?
In certain aspects it is very unique. There was one team, I can't remember exactly what team it was, but I remember that we studied the whole week, and coach, as soon as we introduced the next team, was like, man, this is a defense that you're not going to see very often. And, watching some old film from this defensive coordinator's previous years and stuff like that, it is a defense that you don't really see a lot. And but there is one from before. Now, I'm not saying that this is the exact same, because this defensive coordinator and this defense likes to move tremendously more than the previous team that we played in this front. But there is some similarities that we can sort of take notes from years past out on.
Terry?
Hey, Landon, I think you were the only guy left who actually played during the 2016 season. I know there were some guys still there who redshirted, but a little bit different challenge this year with an all-SEC schedule. But obviously that 2016 team started 0-2 as well, and you guys were able to turn it around back then. Were there any lessons that maybe you learned that year that you can still apply to this season?
Absolutely. And I definitely think that, even the guys that didn't have the chance to play that were still around the program there, they got to learn those lessons too. And not necessarily from a physical standpoint, from being out in the field and actually feeling, that you had a contribution to that it's going to be, it's a little more disappointing when you have a contribution into that game. But you can never let one turn into two turn into three, and so on. Especially in a 10-game SEC schedule. You don't have any out-of-conference plays that, maybe a lighter team to go against, or more of a directional game to go into. You're facing the best of the best every single week, and this is not a time to hang your head and be low. You have to be able to recover. You have to be able to go out back to practice and just keep on grinding. We invest so much into this game, and a lot of people don't even know the full extent that us players invest into this game, and the coaches invest in this game, and the trainers, everybody. And we just have to keep on investing and keep on digging deeper, playing harder, and eventually that investment is going to cash out.
Lonnie Demery?
Landon, you talked, as well as Eddie Grant said, you all, even though you had 400 yards rushing, that you made some mistakes. You left, you missed some blocks or what have you. And you didn't say it in the term, but I'm sort of paraphrasing. But anyway, is it about the fact that you all haven't quite got that team at the position concept, that whole line concept yet, together with a new individual in that too? Not pointing at him, but I'm just saying, is that the case?
I definitely think. Whoops, hold on, guys. Had a little technical malfunction there.
Then I need to repeat anything? Okay.
Yeah, I got you. So again, I think a big part of that is sort of the team unity part, and having those extra pieces in the cogwheel now that have to be able to work together, and not having that extra time to be able to sit down and be able to learn those guys, learn what they're good at, learn what they're bad at, learn what goes through their brain throughout this game and this whole learning process. It makes it really, really hard. And obviously, like, we can do it, and obviously other teams can do it. And it's just sometimes it's a little slower transition. I think that we're getting back into that. I think that we're trying to focus that on being able to create that unity across the team. Otherwise than that, we just have to focus back on the basics. We can't be selfish. And that's one thing that I think that UK teams in the past have really struggled with, is that sort of selfishness. One person doesn't want to do their job. They want to be this extraordinary hero and go out and make plays that they shouldn't have to, that they should just be able to do their job. But some people, sorry about that. The TV just went black and I lost everything. Yeah. But yeah, you just got to keep the selfishness out of it. You can't be a superstar out on the field. You got to make your routine plays and keep doing what your coach teaches you how to do. And that's pretty much the extent of it, between the unity and, being able to be grounded in the game and do your responsibility.
Okay.
Landon, I was talking to Luke earlier, and he was reminiscing about when he was on his visit and first met you. And he said that you told him you were attempting to learn to play the banjo.
Yeah.
Did you follow through with that, and can you play the banjo right now? Not like this moment,
So
but
I did a little bit. Of course, things get really busy, and then things get away from you a little bit at a time. And I actually haven't been able to play it in quite a while. It's been sitting in my upstairs. I did pretty good there for the first probably year to 2 years that I was sort of trying to self-teach myself. But I've made the commitment to myself that one day I'm going to sit down and I'm going to actually get somebody to teach me rather than me self-teach myself. But I really enjoy it. I love bluegrass music. All the guys laugh at me because I'm the dude with subs in the back of my truck that will be going down Nicholasville Road blaring bluegrass music. And but I absolutely love it. Just that twang, that sort of quirkiness of the banjo. I fell in love with it at a young age and still love it today.
what's your favorite bluegrass artists?
So J.D. Crowe was actually a family friend of ours when I was going to church when I was young. So I was a huge J.D. Crowe in the New South fan. But, I love just about any bluegrass I can get a hold of.
John Clay?
No, I was going to ask the same thing Curtis asked about who was your favorite. Was there a particular banjo player who inspired you to pick up the banjo and try to learn how to play?
So there was two, and one was always J.D. Crowe. I was always the little boy that ran around church, and I would go find J.D. every single week, and I would go give him and his wife a big hug, and I loved being around him. I didn't talk a lot of banjo with him, but just the thought of having somebody at your church that was on YouTube and on Google, and you could look him up and hear just these crazy things that he was playing with this 5-string instrument was amazing to me. And then something that sort of picked me back up was being able to go down to Dollywood actually with my now wife, and they had a band there to start off the sort of show at the Dixie Stampede, and his name is Biscuit, and he was a 4-time national banjo champion. And I had the chance to sit down with him and talk a little bit with him, learn about his sort of, he's a bigger guy, sort of like me. And, sort of ask him about the troubles that he had, with big fingers and, just being a bigger guy with that little instrument in there. So those two guys really drove me to want to be able to play that banjo.
Jeff Drummond?
Landon, this creates quite the dilemma with this next question. When Rocky Top comes on, what kind of emotions come over a bluegrass fan of the banjo?
So I will sing, or at least vibe to some Rocky Top on every single week except for Tennessee week. I do like the song. It is a good song. I just hate that Tennessee had to ruin it by putting that orange and that team behind it.
All right. Looks like that wraps up our questions.
Thank you, everybody.